Green Apple Books on the Park. Hello, hi, my name is Cara Johnson. I'm the event coordinator for Green Apple. I'm really glad to see all of your very cute queer faces, and this is a very special evening for us here at Green Apple. I'm very excited to welcome you all to celebrate the reissue of Clark Henley's The Butch Manual, The Current Drag, and How to Do It. Let's give a hand for this. So this is special not only because we get to honor Clark as a San Franciscan, and we have some of Clark's family here, which is very exciting, but we also get to have Green Apple's own Brendan McHugh, who wrote the foreword for this book. Brendan to celebrate him on his home turf. A shout out to Dark Entries, who reissued this book. And Brendan is joined tonight in all of his butchy goodness with fellow Green Appler Zoe. Well, I want you to, how many times can I say butch in one evening? I would like for you to keep clapping for each reader as I say their names, okay? We are joined by Zoe Williams, as well as Eric Sneathen. And last but most certainly not least, Julian Carter. We have a really great show ahead of you. This is Butch Manual live, so I'm really glad to see you all here, and I will be very brief and let our Butches take over. So, very brief business. Now is a good time to silence your cell phones if you have not already. Picture taking, okay, fine. Yeah. Encouraged. Please, photos, okay. Phone calls during the event, not okay, not cool. Please do not do that. You will be embarrassed. Please do check out our full event calendar online at greenapplebooks.com. We have a really great season ahead of us, including the event you're currently attending. Please do, if you are able, and if you have not yet, buy books. Please do buy books from us. We have books available, not only the Butch Manual, but we also have Julian's book, we have Eric's book here, one of Eric's books here, one of Julian's books here. So think about it. You are in an independent bookstore. If you've been here before, you've certainly heard me say that when you buy books from us, not only do you support us as an independent bookstore, you support the writers who put so much work into making these books, and then you get to have a book, which might be the best part. So if you're able, we always appreciate it. Not only that, I'm going to sweeten the pot a little bit. Tonight, we do have a beneficiary this evening. Our beneficiary is the Trevor Project. Let's hear it for the Trevor Project. So Green Apple is giving 10% of each copy of our event book tonight to the Trevor Project, so that means we should sell lots of them. Let's do that, and then you get to have it. This is also super critical now that this service, like for our community, is under attack. So we're trying to protect queer youth, protect queer adults, and like keep us alive. So let's try and do that. And if you already donated with your RSVP, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and I will let you folks know what our total ends up being, and you'll all be really proud of yourselves and you'll feel good. So thank you. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and give you the briefest of biographical information, because I want the show to go on, as it were. And I want to have Brendan take over as kind of the MC-ish and tell us a little bit about this project. So, without further ado, I would like to let you know that Julian Carter is the author of Whiteness, Normal Sexuality, and Race in America from 1890 to 1940, as well as Dances of Time and Tenderness. He teaches at California College of the Arts in San Francisco. Let's give one more hand for Julian Carter. And Zoe Williams, my fellow Green Appler, Zoe Williams, lives and works in San Francisco. Recently, her work can be found in zines and magazines by her friends all over the Bay Area. And right now, she is having a really big moment with DVDs from the library. Let's give a hand for DVDs from the library. Eric Sneathen is a poet and queer literary historian living in Oakland, California. He is the author of Snail Poems and Don't Leave Me This Way. With Lauren Levin, he edited Honey Mine, The Selected Fictions of Camille Roy. Let's give one more hand for Eric. And last but most certainly not least, extremely loud and incredibly gay. It's on the paper. San Francisco-based writer, deaf advocate, and bookseller Brendan McHugh has written for Foglifter, Broke-Ass Stewart, many other publications. His poetry has appeared in Discount Guillotine, Poetry Trapper Keeper, and the zine Hold Me Through, Love Poems for Crisis. He wrote the foreword to this new edition of Clark Henley's The Butch Manual, which is the reason we are here tonight. Let's give one big hand for Brendan McHugh.
This is so cool. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm going to start at this mic because I'm going to talk about from the forward. And then I'm going to start reading from the book where it will be a completely different persona. And I'm going to move to that chair. Just bear with me. All right. So I'm going to just read a bit from the forward, and then we're going to have a lot of fun. But I do want to point out, all those names you learned for all the readers, you should just forget them now. And they don't know I'm doing this. But they are now Butch 1, Butch 2, and Butch 3. Because there's a lot of Butch potential in this room, but I think you all could use a little coaching. So we're here to do that for you. So our book's about masculinity lacking in laughs. Do you snicker at mask for mask, yet secretly strive to pass? Or are you feeling driven to claim the dab within? Perhaps you're tempted to try, just ever so, to butch it up. Well, fortunately, Clark Henley wrote the book for you. Here it is, back in print after decades, the Butch Manual. No longer will you have to scour eBay, take out Klarna payment plans, or commit hundreds of dollars for a first edition copy. Butch is back and taking no prisoners. Now you too can learn how to walk, eat, party, drug, sleep, and talk if you must. Just like the Genuine Butch article. A new generation of Butches is waiting to be born, and Clark is here to butchly push you toward aloof ruggedness. Read on, Mary. A most un-Butch way to hail the reader. This reprint of Butch revels in the book's biting staying power as it turns its focus to a hyper-specific gay white masculinity that queer people still grapple with. The genius in centering Butch as an achievable way of being, while also laughing hysterically at it, is a gift to readers and queer study scholars alike. To what end will we go as queers to transform ourselves into fantasy? Is fantasy also the path in becoming our true selves? Tragically, Clark's life was cut short in 1988 by AIDS. His last writings on living with AIDS were heartfelt, but still retain Butch's playful snark too. Clark's playfulness is deeply needed in a moment where our community is under direct attack. The importance of having an inside joke helps us stay sane as we remain on the political and cultural defense. And now at last you can hold this new copy in your hands and start your journey. Prepare to laugh. The great work begins, stud. Being Butch. Are you getting laid frequently enough? Does anyone get laid enough? Did you feel like you were finally getting somewhere in the self-esteem department? You stopped trying to deepen your voice when you meet new people. You stopped worrying if you crossed your legs the wrong way. You finally liberated yourself as a free spirit, only to find that free spirits have gone out of season. Suddenly, the most inconsequential decisions are grounds for a major identity crisis. Which color is more fun? Party pink or olive drab? Which article of clothing is more festive? A feather boa or a construction hat? Who would it be more fun to imitate on a New York subway grating? Marilyn Monroe or R2-D2? So why is everyone acting like R2-D2? The answer is simple. Because R2-D2 is Butch. And Butch is getting laid. So, throw out your heels and get on the construction books. There's a whole new drag and it's called Butch. Relax. No one is born Butch. Most of us are born babies and promptly burst into tears, which is most on Butch. Yet when some people grow up, they become inescapably Butch, while others are still sitting on the sidelines waiting for a miracle. Is it in the genes, natural selection, divine intervention? No. These people have done their homework. They have read the writing on the bathroom walls. They have followed the advice of the graffiti gurus. They've given people what they think the people want. They've gone Butch. And so can you. Here it is, live from every toilet in town, the Butch Manual. So, Butch number 1 is going to lead us into a Butch grounding exercise. And then be demonstrating some Butch movement, which I will narrate. And also, I think we both will require that you take part in. Thank you.
This is participatory art. The first thing we must do to put ourselves on the Butch map is develop Butch attitude. While the gay community abounds in attitude, this is not the correct attitude for Butch. Gay attitude is the result of an overwhelming amount of flawless taste with which gay people energetically judge absolutely everything. Butch, on the other hand, is hopelessly taste-free. No one said that becoming Butch would be easy, but I'm here to help. The Butch attitude blowjob blowout. Shut your eyes. All of you. I'm not kidding. Start by shutting your eyes. Sit quietly. Get accustomed to the darkness within. Start to notice your thoughts. Are they engraved? Written in neon? Perhaps they're broadcast over the PA system. Are they splashing across the headlines? Are they in French? Are they cashmere? Now, slip out of your aesthetic thoughts and into something much less comfortable. Imagine that you are a balloon in the exact shape of yourself. You are filled with hot air. Flying around inside you are millions of decorative little butterflies. They represent all of your exquisite taste. The butterflies flutter about and tickle your skin. Now imagine a cute little fairy. He's about 3 feet high, and his name is Miss Hoover. He saunters up to you, pushes your knees apart, and starts giving you a blowjob. He is sucking all the butterflies out of you. You can no longer remember which one is the salad fork. You can't remember whether seersucker's in this summer, or whether you've renewed your opera tickets, and you can't remember your fabulous quiche recipe, but worse, you no longer care. And now imagine that Miss Hoover is so filled with your hot air and butterflies that he may explode. Slowly, he floats up and somersaults away, a dinky dirigible out of control. You are left behind, deflated. Your body is completely still. You feel nothing. You think nothing. There are no headlines. There is no quiche. Welcome to Butch Attitude.
All right, before we demonstrate how to sit Butchly, I'm going to introduce you to Butch movement briefly. Born yesterday, Butch bases his entire charisma upon Butch attitude. Butch is pure. Butch is direct. Butch is less. Much less. The key to developing Butch is simplicity, a quality that does not particularly abound in the gay community. Many people suffer rather frenetic childhoods and still manifest the traumas in a complex collage of nervous mannerisms. These people are stumbling encyclopedias of psychotic body language. Observing them walk down the street is like watching their depraved childhoods on reruns. Many people are not interested in keeping secrets. Butch, on the other hand, tells us nothing with his body language. Butch has no past, no history. If anyone was born yesterday, it was Butch. So, sitting, if you must. Of course, the truly Butch thing to do is stand. But there are places such as cars where that is usually more appropriate to sit. It is also extremely difficult to get out of bed without sitting up first, even if for a moment. There are going to be two areas of concern that we are going to be leading you through tonight. While sitting, first, the arms. Cross them. Fold your arms across your chest as if to say, hey, so show me something, okay? I'm bored. And should a hot number walk by, you will be able to flex without looking like that's what you're doing. Whatever you do not fold your hands in your lap. This looks as though you're waiting for your grandmother to serve tea. Remember, you don't like tea. You don't have a grandmother. You don't have a past. The legs. Keep those knees at least 1.5 feet apart. Do not cross your legs ever. This is the area of greatest failure in the development of Butch. Leg crossing is an immediate giveaway of an amateur Butch. And now Butchman is going to demonstrate these things, and I encourage you to try to do it. We're going to do a few exercises. The G and T position. Sit with your knees touching. Now place your right ankle on your left knee. All right. Now, we're going to move into another position, the Shirley Temple position. Keeping your legs crossed, tuck the upper foot behind your lower leg. Now, how do you feel? Like you're hiding? Like a pretzel? Notice how tying yourself into a physical knot reflects your mental state. Pretzel mentality is far too complicated for Butch. The correct position is the Budweiser position. Unwrap your legs. Push your knees as far apart as possible. Leave them there. Drafty, isn't it? Do you feel vulnerable? Forget it. You look sure of yourself and above penetration. Butch is always above penetration. The message is clear. I have nothing to hide, whereas you. Butch is great at avoiding all invitations to personal contact and always manages to throw the ball back in the other person's court before the other knows it's gone. Keeping your knees as far apart as possible reads only too clearly, hey, am I hung or what? I couldn't cross my legs if I tried. Shit, if I just put my knees together, I'd probably castrate myself. Man, this equipment's gotta breathe. All right. Butch number 1 is now going to talk about how to walk Butch.
Okay. We're getting there. walking is another little way Butch reminds the world that he is endowed with legendary features. Since very few people can actually verify this mythology, we shall use a prop for our practice. First, one must walk around normally. Notice how freely your legs move as you glide from one foot to the other. Your hips might swing a little bit in and out, counterbalance as your shoulders move back and forth. Notice that the entire flow is set off as the arms swim forward, and notice you always wanted to be a dancer. Now, take a large zucchini. Push it down one pant leg. Walk. Notice that your Levi's are about to castrate you. Your thighs are cramping slightly, and your knees are somewhat locked. Notice that your feet are no longer willing to leave the floor, that your hips and shoulders, in fact, no longer rotate, and that your sphincter has tied itself into a macrame sampler. Your arms ought to hang about 6 inches from the sides of your body, and your hands gasp for air. Practice the Butch walk until you no longer need an auxiliary vegetable.
That was passable. All right. Butch number 2 is going to come up here now and talk about Butch noises and Butch talking.
Thank you. I made a sign to help distinguish. Having mastered the art of motion, it is now possible to add sound. And as talkies ruined the careers of many silent screen stars, talking has nipped the careers of many aspiring butches. The key to Butch talk, a point which deserves constant repetition, is simplicity. Why bother to complete a sentence when the sentiment can be conveyed in a phrase? To comprehend Butch talk most fully, we shall refer to Strunk White's Elements of Style, a very slender handbook which manages to make a tedious case for clear, logical, direct, and precise prose. Its incessant pleading could drive many aspiring butches to the brink of a well-deserved breakdown. Why is this so? Because many members of the gay community thrive on excess, and the gayer areas of town are often knee-deep in exclamation points. Let's compare how Butch talks with unbutch. We can immediately see how the unbutch voice dangles at the end of an irrelevant modifier or hides as an object of anyone else's preposition. Butch is always the subject. Mary, this man was so handsome, eyes to lay down and die over. Not that it would do any good. Eyes that said, I'll call, but he didn't even try to get in touch with me. I'm not into bedroom eyes. Note that, whereas the unbutch voice is always passive, Butch is always active. Mary, happiness is no longer being sought out by me in this lifetime. I'm giving up men. I'm going out. Unbutch talk is utterly prone to the negative voice. Butch always uses positive words. It uses fewer of them. You're out of the special, aren't you? I knew it. You're not? I don't believe it. Give me the regular. This insecurity, vis-a-vis clarity mode, keeps the unbutch voice shrouded in vague, indefinite terms. Butch, as always, is concrete. Michael is so busy, but he insinuated that if he finishes his workout early and his friends don't come into town and he doesn't do his laundry, which he really needs to do, especially the towels, that he might call if he's around a phone and maybe we'll see about possibly getting together. Mike's full of shit. I'm going to the movies. The unbutch voice dramatically paints mood after mood with excessive adjectives, adverbs, and other descriptive phases, much like Debussy. Butch, as always, a meat and potatoes man, sticks to basic nouns and verbs. Yes, harder, come on, faster, hold it, slide it out now, now, slowly back in, come on, deeper, harder, all the way. Shit, I'm coming. Butch clarity is further camouflaged with unbutch refusal to relinquish dramatic, yet totally superfluous words. May I offer you a ride in my $47,000 Mercedes, complete with navy blue eelskin, with a television in the glove compartment, and a complete bar in the back seat? Get in. The unbutch voice often remains confused, refusing to establish a topic sentence. Loose minds promote loose sentences. Mary, do you see little green elves under the bed? I do. Lots of people have green hair these days. How old are you? The icing flowers are squashed on my birthday cake. I think I'm going to throw up. That dope sure was strong. Oh, shit. Was that joint dusted? It is extremely unbutch to taint conversation with exaggeration, although this is often the only way to save a boring conversation. Butch handles this by not starting the conversation. Mary, it was quite simply the last chic orgy on earth. I came 1,000,000 times. Same old people. I came once and left. Exclamation points are always handy for goosing exaggeration to the level of ridiculous. This involves a certain amount of vocal animation, unfortunately, the most unbutch. Mary, look what you've done to the sauce. You put the lemon juice in too fast. The butter is boiling. It looks like egg drop soup. This brunch is absolutely ruined. Our reputations are curdled. This mayonnaise looks yellow. The last token of wisdom from Strunk and White is to prefer the standard of the offbeat. This is not a cherry note for those gay people whose entire lives, whose joie de vivre, whose very raison d'etre is the emancipation of the offbeat. While the unbutch voice may be rich in superfluity, sarcasm, and insecurity, the same flamboyant display of local color prevents it from being butch.
I already feel that being butch like 5 times listening to that. Alright. So, now we've learned how to walk butch and talk butch. Now we're going to see what happens what Butch number 3 tells us when Butch goes to a cocktail party.
It's hard to break the form, but I'm going to do it and just say thank you for inviting me and for having us and for Green Apple being here. That might not be very butch to
It's not.
to demonstrate my gratitude. It's really hard. I feel like you and I have been talking for weeks
Yes.
about what we're going to wear.
Yes.
And I still didn't know this morning, so this is what I happen to have. And rather than going out and buy tight, hot things, this is what I ended up with. And then we got approval from 5 different friends, so there we go.
It's perfect.
It's their fault. Cocktail Coward, or Butch at the Cocktails. In the back of the book, there stopped being like advice. So like these are almost like short stories at the end of the book. Part of this game, Butchopoly, which Clark says you can just nap through. So if that's what seizes you in this moment, you're welcome to it, and you will be very much. The cocktail party was invented by Noel Coward, so he could have a built-in audience while he leaned on his mantelpiece, sipped a dry gin martini, and tried out new material for his next play. That play would be about people leaning on mantelpieces, sipping martinis, and saying dreadfully dishy things about each other. It is unfortunate that the cocktail party did not die when Noel did. Tuxedos with martinis still reunite around the mantel from 6 to 8-ish each evening. The brie quiche is cut, the hunky butler is coked, the poodles have been slipped their doggy downers, and the tidy bowl is working overtime. But something is awry. The designer dish has suddenly crash-landed into the California dip. The word dreadfully has been pushed once too often onto the breach. The tuxedos are on the verge of terminal ennui. Can anything save this affair? Enter Butch. Butch is never invited to cocktail parties. He is always dragged along by one of the guests who promise him they won't stay more than a second. The tuxedos bristle as Butch enters in his Butch glory, the dusty tennis shoes, the grass stains on the knees of his faded 501s, that loaded basket yearning to breathe free, the sweat stains in the armpits, the missing buttons revealing 2 bronze pectorals, and, with a twist of the head, 2 divine nipples. The gaggle of tuxedos, heads all tilted to one side, collectively gasp. The games commence. Butch coolly eyes the tuxedos as he wanders to the window to look down on the city. The butler brings him a beer. Butch's date wanders around the room collecting accolades for having discovered Butch. The guests have spent a lifetime sublimating sensuality into arrogance, and the group's sum of suppressed lust is about to blast Butch out the window. One by one, the guests wander up to Butch to inform him of their net worth in real estate. Butch crushes his beer can and drops it on the butler's tray. Would you care for another? The butler asks. Wanna fuck? Butch asks. They climb the stairway to heaven and disappear into the master bedroom. The living room bubbles in turmoil, the hosts panic. Butch's date pops a dozen Valium. The gossip accelerates as all eyes remain glued to the staircase. Everyone still finds time to wander by Butch's date and offer a pleasant, "So dear, do you have any plans for the weekend?" Should Butch's date live so long, he will definitely be leaving town over the weekend. Butch leaves the bedroom first. He looks more relaxed. He saunters down the stairs, gets himself a new beer, and plops down on the sofa. The butler wanders out of the bathroom. His eyes are crossed and he is grinning from ear to ear. He walks into the wall, bounces backwards, and falls down a dozen stairs. He gets up and wanders out the front door, never to be seen again. All the guests join Butch on the sofa. Butch's date drags him onto the terrace. The date screams, he threatens, he breaks down and cries. Butch is unamused. He calls a cab and goes to the baths. Butch's date cries himself to sleep on the chaise. Noel would have loved it.
That was great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Butch 1, Butch 2, Butch 3. And now I think Julian has questions for me.
I do. Who am I talking to?
Oh, just me now.
Oh, okay.
I failed already.
Well, you can choose which of the first 2 you want to start with, okay? One is, how did Clark come to write this book? What is its backstory? And the other one is, who is this mysterious John to whom it is dedicated?
Yeah, I'll start with the dedicatee, John, and then I will explain the very fun backstory as to how Clark wrote the book. So John is Clark's best friend from boarding school that he went to, known as JPC, which is how I met him. And he was actually at the first Butch event I did last year with Eric. And he like popped up with a question. I was like, oh my God. And they were very, very close. And when Clark was still living in San Francisco in the 70s, he used to go to Cockette shows with John. and he would like ward off other people from John and be like, he's my boyfriend. And so they were very close their like entire life, I would say. And then
was he his boyfriend?
No, not straight. Yeah. Proudly. No, no, he's wonderful. He's a wonderful man. And and basically, like, he just kind of really, like, adored John and was his best friend, and they corresponded, and his journal entries just talking about their friendship, and then also Clark did a lot of writing when he was in boarding school, as well as visual art, and his first major kind of artistic achievement was this amazing alligator map of San Francisco full of many, many phallic buildings that you can buy on the Dark Entries website or in the store for $10. I highly recommend it. They're gorgeous and big. But Clark actually came up with this idea when he was visiting his sister Carol and her family in Kansas City. And he was going to the baths, and he basically overheard these kind of like farm boys talking about how they needed to be more butch like city boys or city guys. And he found that funny because he had basically just moved to Los Angeles because he was trying to create a new chapter in his life and focus on his art and focus on his writing. And he was also working at a bookstore at the time, the Unicorn in West Hollywood. And he found it kind of funny because in the baths in the big cities, they were all trying to talk about how to be butch like, you know, farm workers, truck drivers. And he felt like, oh, this is kind of funny. It wouldn't be great if there was a butch, like a manual for this, a butch manual. And he wrote it like very quickly in a matter of months. And then if you haven't read the book yet, the book ends where Clark is channeling Gertrude Stein in a Q&A. And so he didn't really know how to end it initially, and he'd written all these things. It just kind of flew out of him and came together very quickly. And then the next part that was a huge, like, part of it was him figuring out the photos and finding the models and taking a lot of the photos and being in so many of the photos, and then also drawing every single graph and chart in it and laying it out. And its original editor, Felice Picano, who we did get to work with on this before he passed away this year, said that he barely had to do anything with it once he got it at Seahorse Press. Yeah.
So did John need to be taught how to be butch? Like, why to him?
I don't know. I think it was just because they were best friends. I don't think there was really anything other to it than that.
Oh, I was hoping for something salacious.
Yeah. It was just kind of like, this is my best friend and I love him. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to decide which of the next questions I want to ask first. I guess I'm interested in following up on what you just said about the photographs and the drawings.
Mm-hmm.
Is one of their T-shirts around by any chance? The one with the diagram on the back?
Well, there is. So, actually, if any of you have your books, I can just direct you to them.
So Clark is
in page 82 and 83.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of photographs in here, which I gather he took, and I'm interested in hearing more about his life as an artist and someone who worked with the visual.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the reasons for that is that there are these places in the book where he makes these diagrams that are partly informational, but they're also clearly partly just aesthetic objects. These are drawings, and that's not something he talks about at all in relation to butchness. I'm curious what you have to say about his art.
Oh yeah, So Clark's other major artistic projects, which never really got published, was a series of children's books.
No.
And he corresponded with Maurice Sendak and James Marshall. And James Marshall actually dedicated his book, Fox Looks for a Job, to him, which is hilarious because Clark hated working. He liked his work, but like every job he had, just like had an issue. And I relate to that. Not here. Not this job. Not this job. And so I think a lot. and so in the map specifically, because he's using alligators as the Lacoste symbol that was a stereotypical thing gay men wore, perhaps still wear in an ironic way, I guess now, and. there was like a level of whimsy in his artwork and also in his later writings on AIDS. And because I came to his writing through those things, I actually didn't read Butch Manual first. I read his writings about AIDS, HIV, and those pieces are, they're not, well, they're kind of different than Butch for many reasons, but like, they have a lot more personal touches to it, and there's still like this snappy, clever, layered, like, dialogue and storytelling happening. But he really liked kind of like concise pieces. Like Eric said, like the last half of the book is almost more like vignettes. And I mean, he also did illustrations for some of those later articles as well. And he also, one of my favorite things that his sister showed me was a very rare limited run edition of The Night Before Christmas that he illustrated. And it looks like wood cuttings, but it's all ink. And it's really amazing. And I think the graphs specifically are more so like trying to mimic 70s health books, as well as like 70s magazine, ladies' journals, and men's magazines that have different kind of like, I don't know, like the most, he doesn't say this is just me being historian and nosy and just trying to like put it together. Like, I don't know, like diets that like emphasize drinking Cinca, those kinds of things. Except it's for whether or not you'll get an erection or be paranoid while you take drugs. Yeah. And then this one, the Weekend Erection Possibility Chart, is available on a t-shirt, also at Dark Entries. I highly recommend you get one.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Speaking about the erection chart and the possibilities under different circumstances, one of the things that's really inescapably obvious when you read this is there's an enormous amount about drugs. Like, many, many different kinds in massive quantities. And tell me about this.
Yeah, so I love that that's in the book because as a child who grew up under the era of DARE, I don't even remember what it stands for, and Nancy Reagan's Just Say No.
It's drug awareness something education.
Yeah.
Resistance education.
Okay, there we go. Work. On period. Okay. I actually got a medal. You know what? I got a medal for anti-smoking, and I've absolutely struggled with that my whole life. Really helped. Anyways, back to Clark. So actually, one of the most interesting things about this to me was that when I first started reading Clark's writings about living with AIDS for various newsletters and magazines that he was a part of, it was like kind of clear that he was a part of Living Sobriety, which was a very, and probably still is, but in the 80s specifically, was a very, very large visible contingent in San Francisco and other large cities of, back then, mostly gays and lesbians, but I guess I will just make a sweeping thing of queer people who were sober. And Clark was a part of that. And unlike a lot of other gay people's journals, Clark was actually pretty good at keeping that part anonymous. Because I've read other people's journals where they talk about everyone in their AA group. Yeah. But Clark doesn't do that. And so that was like a really important journey for him. And it kind of started in a way that it did for many people in the 70s by joining a seminar, like the EST seminar. And there was another version, if you don't know what EST is, it was a personal development kind of confrontational, experiential exercise to like change your life. You should look it up. It's really intense. But so I think that Clark's send up of drug culture in the gay community is one, not denying the fact that it's like a part of it. And I think that and I don't know why necessarily, but I think that there's like a tendency to either downplay that or not pay attention to it in the histories of the community. Like when, you know, I'm a queer historian. I've been like researching AIDS for like 15 years. And, you know, most of the books I read, they're all excellent. They're about activism, and there's things about people's social lives, but like no one really talks about that. But they'll only talk about drug use if it's like other communities that are people of color. So it's also this like racial thing. So when I read it in Clark's book, part of it is like, some of it's like personal knowledge, but also it's like familiarity and an ability to kind of like poke fun at the fact that like, you know, there's like an excessive amount of things you need to do to like have a good time or appear butch or like not butch.
Well, one of the things that's kind of fun, that's kind of odd about it actually, is that there's a way in which it seems like there's a certain amount of critique in here, right? There's all of this stuff that's about the point being to be able to fuck a lot, but actually there's drug after drug after drug after drug. It's like, yeah, that'll keep you from getting hard.
Yeah.
Right? So
exactly. That's like the whole point of that chapter. Yes.
It's like there's a whole chapter that's about how not to get an erection.
Yeah, and when he was living in LA, when Clark journaled, has anyone here seen Hustler White? I know that there's definitely people with. So there's a lot of it takes place at the Yukon Diner, which was a notorious hustling ground. And Clark wrote so many of his journals while he was eating his breakfast or his meals while he was there, usually post-workout, which he would write about his workouts a lot too, which was great. You can see, you know. But he often talked about how prevalent drug use was in LA. And there's this one entry, and I won't name the super famous writer's name, where this person offered him coke at a reading because it rained, so no one came to this person's reading, which is very LA. And this person offered him cocaine, and he's like, no, thank you. It just like said it like that. He didn't like say anything about him being sober. And then all of a sudden the person became incredibly interested in him. He's like, all you have to do is just say no to the Coke spoon and people just really want to know who you are. It's really good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else about Clark? I do want to actually have a follow-up on that. Is when in his sobriety is this story?
A few years into it, I think. Yeah. Yeah. And he like, should I tell the body cast story? So when Clark got sober, it was towards his like early like 30s, and he wanted to do this thing to kind of like celebrate it. I can't remember the exact details, but he decided that he was going to do like what is it called where you jump out the airplane?
Parachutes.
Yeah.
Sky jump.
Yeah. And so he did that, and the parachute didn't work.
Oh God.
And so he ended up in a body cast for a while, like partially, and he was living with his parents. And so he was in his journals at that time. He was just like really frustrated because he really wanted to write. He wanted to be a writer, and this is kind of going in and out. I'm not sure what's going on, but.
Keep going, I got you.
Yeah, you go. He really wanted to be a writer. Like he'd always been kind of recognized for his visual art from a very, very young age. And he was in his work when he was a kid in boarding school was amazing. And then he had written, like, he was definitely writing. And sometimes it's not always clear in his journals which pieces he's talking about, but Butch was definitely like the idea that clicked for him. And he just did it. And so I think that like him writing this book at that time was like it was like a huge deal for him, you know. He also wanted to be recognized for his talent, you know, his wit, his writing, and now he is. And he was then too, but now it's like, you know, I'm really glad it's like getting, you know, a significantly broader audience now. Yeah.
It is a really interesting book as a historical artifact that is sitting on the edge of a couple of major cultural transitions in gay men's worlds, and that the relationship of, it's partly about the relationship between different versions of gay gender, but also this question about where do drugs belong? Where is this about hedonism? Where is this about developing an image of control? And that's something I think is really going to be present for a lot of people dipping into Clark's mental universe. Do I have time for one more question for you?
Yeah, one more question. Yes,
Okay, one more question. Cool. Sorry I didn't prep you for this. Oh well. Can you say something about your own experience of queer gender?
To quote Butch, I have no experience. No. Okay, so to relate it to the book, I was actually surprised by the amount of Butch things I do. And they're all kind of disgusting. And so that was like validating also. I was like, well, I'm doing something right. I think which page is it that I really love? It's like the Butch locale in the home. On page 72, there's like a before and after medicine cabinet, and despite my very good skin that I take care of, my medicine cabinet is incredibly bare. There's like nothing in there.
That's because your face is covered with hair.
Oh, that's true. I also would say, like, if anything, I feel like I relate more to Clark in terms of like the fact that he could kind of see this performance of like Butchness, and also I think it's really fascinating that he went for Butch when I think most people associate Butch with lesbians, and he loved lesbians. Dorothy Allison, amazing like dyke icon writer, loved this book, and so I think for me it just kind of mirrored a certain kind of, I don't know, like, if no one talks to me, which is impossible because I talk to everybody, but if no one talks to me and just sees me, they might assume, not in this current getup, they might assume that I'm like particularly masculine in a certain kind of way. But then like once I open my mouth, it's like kind of game over. So I don't know, I feel like it definitely, I don't know if it's been helpful because I'm just so bad at following directions sometimes. But even listening to Zoe read, like I was not doing the right thing with my hands, and I was like incredibly aware of it the whole time. So yeah, and I feel like, what else? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like I'm really facky. Like I don't know. But that's just what it is, and I'm proud of that, and I'm really proud of it. We don't have time for Q&A, but you can ask me questions at Yancey's for the Butch Afters. So, and that's around the corner. And then Cara wants me to tell you all, I'm not technically signing the book because I am not Clark, but I can sign your foreword if you so wish. Yeah. All right.
Can we have Butch's number 1, 2, and 3 join us for a final curtain here? Oh yeah, you have to wear the sign. How will we know? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, can you bring the zucchini back? This is fabulous. Oh, here, let me get.
Which I grew.
Oh, look how cute.
Heirloom.
Fabulous. Oh, thank you all for taking photos. This is great. Good job. Good job. I didn't even need to tell you that you were posing for a photograph. This is fabulous. Can we get one more hand for our Butches, please? Thank you all so much for being here and being a part of this. I I really would like to give one more hand for Clark's family who's here. I will be brief and let you know that Brendan is willing to sign the foreword of the book. He will be here. This is the front of the signing line. So if you want to have your book signed, you'll start there, where that was. Books are available at the front register. You can find them there. Bring them back here to have them signed. If you have any other questions, do let me know. Otherwise, we will see you next time. Thank you so much.